Hey everyone, while Ford and Chrysler are doing who knows what, it's time to take a closer look at Chinese cars. There's already a lot of interesting stuff popping up there. Just a reminder, my name is Tyler. Let's figure out these automotive wonders together.
So, we're diving deep into the ground clearance of the Tank 500, a vehicle often compared to the legendary Cruzak. But let's be honest, pinpointing an exact number for ground clearance isn't always straightforward. Manufacturers often quote figures under ideal conditions, which might not reflect real-world scenarios. We've seen discrepancies between official specs and what owners actually experience. This is why we're going to look at this from several angles. First, let's talk about the competition. What kind of ground clearance are we seeing from similar vehicles in the same class? We're talking about vehicles that aim for that rugged, off-road capable image. Some boast impressive figures, upwards of 10 inches, others slightly less. But remember, these are often manufacturers' claims. We need to consider factors like tire size, suspension setup, and even the load in the vehicle. A fully loaded vehicle will naturally have less ground clearance than an empty one. We'll be showing some comparative shots of different vehicles side by side to give you a visual understanding of the differences. We'll also be looking at independent tests and reviews to see how these advertised figures hold up in the real world. Now, let's get to the heart of the matter. The Tank 500's ground clearance. What are owners saying? We've scoured online forums, social media groups, and review sites to gather real-world data. We've found a range of experiences, and it's fascinating to see the variation. Some owners report ground clearance that aligns closely with the manufacturer's specifications, while others report significantly less. This discrepancy often comes down to factors like driving conditions, modifications made to the vehicle, and even the specific model year. We'll be sharing some specific examples from owner reviews, complete with photos and videos where available, to give you a well-rounded perspective. We'll also discuss potential reasons for these variations, helping you understand what to expect if you're considering buying a Tank 500. Remember, the numbers are just a starting point. The real-world experience can be quite different. We'll analyze the common themes emerging from these owner reports, highlighting the typical ground clearance experienced under various conditions. We'll also discuss the implications of this ground clearance for off-roading and everyday driving. Is it truly capable of handling challenging terrains, or are there limitations? We'll explore this in detail. Enough for everyone and always, but not for me. You know, I've seen a lot of SUVs claim impressive ground clearance. Numbers get thrown around. Marketing materials boast about conquering any terrain. But let's be honest, sometimes those claims fall a little flat. I've been stuck. I've scraped the undercarriage. I've even had moments where I've questioned the sanity of attempting certain off-road adventures. So, when it comes to the Tank 500 and its advertised ground clearance, I wanted to know, is it truly as capable as they say? We're talking about a vehicle that's often compared to the legendary Land Cruiser, a benchmark for off-road prowess. The Tank 500 needs to back up that comparison with serious real-world performance. And that starts with the ground clearance. I've seen videos, read reviews, but nothing beats getting your hands dirty, or rather, your wheels muddy. I took the Tank 500 on some seriously challenging trails, the kind that would make even seasoned off-roaders think twice. And I wasn't just driving gently, I pushed it. I wanted to find its limits, to see exactly where that advertised ground clearance would falter, if at all. We're talking about steep inclines, rocky ascents, and deep ruts, the kind of obstacles that can quickly expose a vehicle's weaknesses. The results? Well, let's just say it exceeded my expectations in some areas and fell a little short in others. We'll dive into the specifics in just a moment, but the initial impression was one of surprising capability. The sheer size of the vehicle, its robust build, and the impressive approach and departure angles all contributed to a feeling of confidence, even on the most daunting terrain. But it wasn't just a feeling. It was backed up by performance. There were moments where I genuinely thought I'd be scraping the undercarriage. Moments where I held my breath, expecting the worst. But the Tank 500 kept on going, surprising me with its resilience and its ability to handle the abuse I was throwing at it. However, there were also moments where I felt the limitations of the ground clearance, particularly in areas with exceptionally large rocks or deep, uneven terrain. It wasn't a complete failure by any means, but it highlighted the importance of understanding the limits of even the most capable vehicles. We'll analyze specific scenarios and measurements later in the video. Fear begins before clearance ends. Now, let's talk about the fear factor. Before even starting my off-road adventures with the Tank 500, I had a certain level of apprehension. This wasn't just any SUV. This was a vehicle with a reputation to uphold, a vehicle that's often compared to some of the most legendary off-roaders in the world. The pressure was on, not just for the vehicle, but for me as well. I wanted to do it justice, to truly test its capabilities and report back to you with an honest assessment. And that fear, that apprehension, only intensified as I tackled more challenging terrain. There were moments where I felt the weight of responsibility, the knowledge that a single mistake could lead to damage, or worse, a complete breakdown. The steep inclines, the rocky surfaces, the unpredictable terrain, it all contributed to a heightened sense of anxiety. But it wasn't just the fear of damaging the vehicle. It was also the fear of failing to accurately assess its capabilities. I wanted to provide you with a comprehensive and honest review, and that meant pushing the Tank 500 to its limits, even if it meant facing my own fears in the process. It's a strange paradox, isn't it? The more capable the vehicle, the more daunting the challenge, and the greater the fear of failure. But that fear, that apprehension, also fueled my determination. It pushed me to be more precise, more careful, more observant. It forced me to truly understand the vehicle's strengths and weaknesses, to learn its limits, and to appreciate its capabilities. And in the end, that fear, that initial apprehension, was replaced by a sense of accomplishment, a feeling of having truly tested the Tank 500 and understood its potential. Bottom line. So, what's the bottom line on the Tank 500's ground clearance? It's impressive, no doubt. It handled a significant amount of challenging terrain with surprising ease, but it's not invincible. There are limits, and understanding those limits is crucial. The advertised ground clearance is accurate, but the real-world performance depends on a number of factors, including the specific terrain, the driving technique, and even the weight of the vehicle. It's not a magic bullet that can conquer any obstacle. It's a capable vehicle, but it's not indestructible. My experience with the Tank 500 highlighted the importance of respecting the limitations of any vehicle, no matter how capable it may seem. It's about understanding the terrain, adapting your driving style, and knowing when to push the limits and when to back off. The Tank 500 is a powerful tool, but like any tool, it needs to be used responsibly and with a full understanding of its capabilities and limitations. It's a vehicle that demands respect, and in return, it rewards you with a thrilling and rewarding off-road experience. But remember, even the most capable vehicles have their limits, and knowing those limits is the key to a safe and successful adventure.